But when each army had been marshalled with their leaders, the Trojans advanced with clamour and battle cry like birds, even as the cry of cranes rises high in the heavens. These cranes, having fled winter and torrential rain, fly with clamorous cries over ocean streams, bringing slaughter and death to the pygmy men. Through the air they bring deadly conflict. But the Achaeans advanced in silence, breathing rage, determined in their hearts to stand by one another. When the south wind spreads mist over mountain peaks, bringing no joy to shepherds, but serving a thief better than night itself, one can see only as far as one can hurl a stone. So beneath their feet a whirlwind of dust arose as they advanced. Very swiftly they traversed the plain. But when they had drawn close as they advanced upon one another, godlike Alexander championed the Trojans in the front ranks, bearing a leopard skin across his shoulders along with a curved bow and sword. But brandishing 2 bronze-tipped spears, he challenged all the finest of the Argives to meet him face to face in terrible battle. But when Menelaus, dear to Ares, saw him advancing before the host with long strides, he rejoiced like a lion that has come upon a mighty carcass, discovering either a horned stag or wild goat in his hunger, for he devours it greedily, even though swift hounds and vigorous young warriors may rush upon him. Thus Menelaus rejoiced when he caught sight of godlike Alexander, for he thought he would punish the transgressor. Immediately he sprang down from his chariot to the ground, armed for battle. But when godlike Alexander saw him appear among the front-line warriors, his heart was struck with terror, and he shrank back into the crowd of his comrades, fleeing from death. As when a man who glimpses a serpent recoils and retreats through a mountain ravine, trembling seizes his limbs, he shrinks back again, and pallor grips his cheeks. So godlike Alexander shrank back into the throng of proud Trojans, fearing the son of Atreus. But when Hector saw him, he rebuked him with shameful words. "Paris, beautiful beyond all others, you woman-crazed seducer, would that you had never been born or had perished unwed." Yes, I would wish for that, and it would be far better than being such a disgrace and an object of scorn to others. How the long-haired Achaeans must laugh with glee, thinking our champion is a true warrior because of his handsome looks, though he has no strength in his heart, nor any courage. So being such as you are, you sailed across the sea in your ocean-going ships, gathering loyal companions, and consorting with foreigners you carried off a beautiful woman from a distant land, the bride of warrior men, bringing great sorrow to your father, and to the city, and to all the people, joy to our enemies, but disgrace to yourself. Will you not then face Menelaus, beloved of Ares? You would know what kind of man's flourishing wife you hold. Your lyre would not avail you then, nor Aphrodite's gifts, your flowing hair and beauty, when you lie mingled with the dust. But the Trojans are truly cowardly. Truly, you would already be clothed in stone, because of all the wrongs you have committed. Then godlike Alexander answered him, "Hector, since you have rebuked me justly, and not beyond what is just, your heart is always like an unwearying axe that cuts through timber in the hands of a man who skillfully hews ship timber, and it multiplies the man's strength. So in your breast dwells a fearless heart. Do not set before me the lovely gifts of golden Aphrodite. The glorious gifts of the gods are not to be spurned, whatever they themselves bestow, nor would anyone take them by choice. Now then, if you want me to wage war and fight, have all the other Trojans and Achaeans sit down, but place me in the centre with war-loving Menelaus to battle over Helen and all her possessions. Whoever wins and proves himself the stronger, let him take all the wealth and lead the woman home. Let the rest make friendship and cut trustworthy oaths, dwelling in Troy of the rich soil, while the others return to horse-rich Argos and fair-womaned Achaea." So he spoke, and Hector rejoiced greatly upon hearing his words, and advancing into the centre, he restrained the Trojan ranks, gripping his spear at the middle, and they all took their seats. But the long-haired Achaeans kept shooting at him with their bows, taking aim with arrows and hurling stones. Then Agamemnon, lord of men, shouted loudly, "Hold back, Argives! Do not throw your weapons, sons of the Achaeans!" For bronze-helmeted Hector is preparing to speak. So he spoke, and they ceased from battle and fell silent at once. Then Hector spoke between both sides. "Hear me, Trojans and well-grieved Achaeans, the proposal of Alexander, on whose account this strife has arisen. He commands all the other Trojans and Achaeans to lay down their beautiful armor on the life-giving earth, while he himself and war-loving Menelaus alone should fight in the middle over Helen and all her possessions. Whoever wins and proves himself the stronger, let him take all the treasure and lead the woman home. But let the rest of us make friendship and cut trustworthy oaths." Thus he spoke, and they all fell silent in hushed stillness. Then among them Menelaus, master of the war-cry, also spoke in response. "Now listen to me as well, for grief comes most of all to my heart, and I believe the Argives and Trojans should now be separated, since you have suffered many evils because of my quarrel and because of Alexander's transgression. Let whichever of us two has been destined for death and fate perish. Let the rest of you withdraw at once. Bring lambs, one white and one black, for earth and sun, and we shall bring another for Zeus. But bring mighty Priam himself to cut the sacred oaths, since his sons are arrogant and faithless, lest someone through transgression violate the oaths sworn by Zeus. But the hearts of younger men are always restless. But when an elder is present among them, he looks both ahead and behind, ensuring that whatever outcome is best for both parties may come about." So he spoke, and both the Achaeans and Trojans rejoiced, hoping to put an end to grievous war. They reined in their horses along the battle lines, stepped down themselves, and stripped off their armor. They laid these down upon the ground close to one another, with only a narrow strip of land between. But Hector sent 2 heralds swiftly to the city to bring lambs and summon Priam. But mighty Agamemnon sent Talthybius to the hollow ships and ordered him to bring a lamb. And he did not disobey noble Agamemnon. Then Iris came as messenger to white-armed Helen, appearing in the likeness of her sister-in-law, the wife of Antenor's son, Laodice, most beautiful of Priam's daughters, whom noble Helicaon, son of Antenor, had taken as his wife. She found her in the great hall. She was weaving a great double purple tapestry, working into it many battles of the horse-taming Trojans and bronze-armoured Achaeans, which they endured for her sake beneath the hands of Ares. Standing close beside her, swift-footed Iris spoke. "Come here, dear bride, so that you may witness the wondrous deeds of the horse-taming Trojans and bronze-armoured Achaeans, who before were waging tearful war against each other on the plain, eager for destructive battle. Now they sit in silence. The war has ceased, leaning on their shields with their long spears planted beside them. But Alexander and Menelaus, beloved of Ares, will fight with long spears over you. To the victor you shall be called beloved wife." So speaking, the goddess cast sweet longing into her heart for her former husband and her city and her parents. At once she covered herself in gleaming white veils and hurried from her chamber, shedding gentle tears. Not alone, for 2 handmaidens accompanied her, Aethra, daughter of Pythias, and ox-eyed Clymene. Swiftly then they reached the place where the Scaean gate stood. Around Priam sat Panthous and Thymoetes, Lampon and Clytius and Hicetaon, scion of Ares, Eucaligon and Antenor, both wise men, elders of the people gathered at the Scaean gates. Age had ended their fighting days, but they remained skilled orators, like cicadas that perch on forest trees and pour forth their lily-sweet voices. Such were the Trojan leaders who sat upon the tower. When they saw Helen approaching the tower, they quietly exchanged winged words with one another. "There is no shame that Trojans and well-grieved Achaeans should endure such long suffering over a woman like this. She bears an uncanny resemblance to the immortal goddesses in her face. But even beautiful as she is, let her return in the ships, lest she leave behind sorrow for us and our children in days to come." Thus they spoke, and Priam called Helen with his voice. "Come here before me, dear child, and sit beside me, so that you may see your former husband and your kinsmen and loved ones. You are not to blame in my eyes. The gods are to blame, who launched against me this tearful war with the Achaeans. So tell me the name of this enormous man as well, whoever this Achaean warrior is, both noble and great. True, There are others taller than he, but never have I seen with my own eyes a man so handsome, nor one so noble. He has the bearing of a king." Then Helen, divine among women, answered him with words. "You are both revered by me and fearsome, dear father-in-law. Would that bitter death had been sweet to me when I came here following your son, abandoning my bridal chamber, my kinsman, my cherished only daughter, and my dear companions of my own age. But these things never came to pass, and so I waste away in tears. But this I will tell you, since you ask and inquire of me. This is Agamemnon, son of Atreus, the wide-ruling lord, both a noble king and a powerful warrior. He was my brother-in-law, shameless creature that I am, if indeed I ever truly existed." So she spoke, and the old man gazed in wonder at him and said, "O blessed son of Atreus, child of fortune, favoured by heaven, truly many sons of the Achaeans have been conquered by you. I have already entered vine-rich Phrygia, where I saw the most numerous Phrygian warriors with their swift horses, the armies of Atreus and godlike Mygdon, who were then encamped along the banks of the Sangarius. For I too was counted as an ally among them on the day when the man-fighting Amazons came. But not even they were as numerous as the bright-eyed Achaeans." Next, catching sight of Odysseus, the old man asked about him. "Come now, tell me about this one as well, dear child. Who is this man? He is shorter in stature than Agamemnon, son of Atreus, but broader across the shoulders and chest to behold. His armour lies upon the fertile earth, but he himself moves through the ranks of men like a ram. I compare him to a thick-fleeced ram that moves through a great flock of silvery sheep." Then Helen, daughter of Zeus, answered him, "This one here is Odysseus, son of Laertes, master of cunning, who was raised in the land of rocky Ithaca, skilled in every kind of trick and clever stratagem." Then wise Antenor answered her in turn, "Lady, truly you have spoken a most accurate word, for indeed noble Odysseus once came here on your behalf as an envoy, together with Menelaus dear to Ares. I received them as guests, and treated them kindly in my halls, and I came to know the character and keen wisdom of both men. But when they mingled among the assembled Trojans, Menelaus with his broad shoulders towered above when standing, yet when both were seated, Odysseus appeared more majestic. But when they wove words and counsels before all, Menelaus would speak rapidly, saying little but very clearly, since he was neither long-winded nor one to miss the mark. He was also younger by birth. But when resourceful Odysseus would rise to speak, he would stand there looking down with his eyes fixed upon the ground, moving his sceptre neither backward nor forward, but holding it motionless like an unskilled man. You would think he was some sullen fellow and a fool besides. But when he would let loose his mighty voice from his breast and words like winter snowflakes, then no other mortal could rival Odysseus. We did not marvel so at Odysseus' appearance when we looked upon him then. Then the old man looked at Ajax, third in turn, and asked, "Who then is that other Achaean, a man both noble and tall, standing out among the Argives with his head and broad shoulders?" Then Helen of the flowing robes, divine among women, answered him, "This is Ajax, the towering bulwark of the Achaeans. On the other side stands Idomeneus among the Cretans like a god, with the Cretan chieftains gathered around him. Many times war-loving Menelaus welcomed him as a guest in our house whenever he came from Crete. But now I see all the other bright-eyed Achaeans, whom I could easily recognize and whose names I could tell. But I cannot see two marshals of the people, horse-taming Castor and Polydeuces, skilled at boxing, my own brothers, born to me from the same mother. Either they did not follow from lovely Lacedaemon, or though they came here in seafaring ships, now they refuse to enter into battle with men, fearing the disgrace and many reproaches that belong to me." So she spoke, but the life-giving earth already held them fast in Lacedaemon, there in their beloved fatherland. Throughout the city, heralds carried the gods' sacred oath-offerings, 2 lambs and heart-gladdening wine, fruit of the earth, in a goatskin bag. The herald Idaeus carried a gleaming mixing bowl and golden cups. Standing beside him, he urged the old man with these words, "Rise, son of Laomedon. The noblest of the horse-taming Trojans and bronze-armoured Achaeans summon you to descend to the plain and swear binding oaths. But Alexander, and war-loving Menelaus shall fight with long spears over the woman. To the victor would go the woman and all her possessions. But we others, having sworn friendship and faithful oaths, would dwell in Troy of the rich soil, while they would return to horse-pasturing Argos and fair-womaned Achaea. So he spoke, and the old man shuddered and ordered his companions to yoke the horses, and they swiftly complied. Then Priam climbed aboard and drew the reins taut behind him. Beside him Antenor mounted the splendid chariot. The two drove their swift horses through the Scaean gates and across the plain. But when they reached the armies of Trojans and Achaeans, they dismounted from their horses onto the bountiful earth and walked into the space between the two forces. Then immediately arose Agamemnon, lord of men, and with him rose resourceful Odysseus. Meanwhile, the noble heralds gathered the sacred oath-offerings of the gods, mixed wine in the bowl, and poured water over the king's hands. The son of Atreus drew with his hands a knife that always hung beside his sword's great sheath, and cut hairs from the heads of the lambs. Then the heralds of the Trojans and Achaeans distributed portions to the chiefs. Then the son of Atreus offered a great prayer to them, lifting up his hands. Father Zeus, who rules from Ida, most glorious and greatest, and Son, who sees all things and hears all things, and rivers and earth, and you who punish the dead below when anyone swears a false oath, be witnesses and guard these sacred oaths. If Alexander should kill Menelaus, then let him have Helen and all her possessions, and we shall sail home in our seafaring ships. But if fair-haired Menelaus kills Alexander, then the Trojans must return Helen and all her possessions, and pay the Argives such compensation as is fitting, the kind that endures among future generations of men. But if Priam and Priam's sons refuse to pay me compensation once Alexander has fallen, then I myself will continue fighting for recompense, remaining here until I bring this war to its end." So he spoke, and cut the throats of the lambs with ruthless bronze, and he laid them on the earth, gasping and deprived of life, for the bronze had stripped away their life force. Drawing wine from the mixing bowl with cups, they poured it out and prayed to the eternal gods. And thus would someone speak among both Achaeans and Trojans: "Zeus, most glorious and greatest, and you other immortal gods, whichever side first transgresses these sacred oaths, may their brains flow upon the ground like this wine, both theirs and their children's, and may their wives be subdued by others." Thus they spoke, but Zeus did not yet grant their prayer. Then Priam, descendant of Dardanus, spoke among them: "Hear me, Trojans and well-grieved Achaeans. Indeed, I shall return to windy Ilion, for I cannot yet bear to witness with my own eyes my dear son fighting against Menelaus, beloved of Ares. Zeus surely knows this, and the other immortal gods as well, for which of the two the end of death is destined." So he spoke, and the godlike man placed the lambs in the chariot, then stepped up himself and drew the reins back behind him. Beside him, Antenor mounted the splendid chariot. So the two turned back and were returning to Troy. But Hector, Priam's son, and noble Odysseus first measured out the ground. Then taking lots, they shook them in a bronze helmet to determine who should cast his bronze spear first. The people prayed and raised their hands to the gods, and thus would speak someone among both Achaeans and Trojans: "Father Zeus, who rules from Ida, most glorious and greatest, whichever of these two has brought this conflict upon both our peoples, grant that he may perish and descend to the house of Hades, while let friendship and faithful oaths be established between us." So they spoke, and great Hector of the glancing helmet shook the lots while looking away. Paris's lot sprang forth quickly. Then they sat down in their ranks, each beside his swift-footed horses and ornate armour. Then he donned the beautiful armour about his shoulders, divine Alexander, husband of fair-haired Helen. First he placed beautiful greaves around his shins, fitted with silver ankle guards. Next he donned around his chest the breastplate of his brother Lycaon. It fitted him well. Around his shoulders he slung a bronze sword with silver studs, and then took up a shield both large and sturdy. Upon his mighty head he set a finely crafted helmet with horsehair crest, and the crest nodded menacingly from above. He took up his mighty spear, which was fitted to his grasp, and in just the same way warlike Menelaus armed himself. When both had armed themselves before their respective hosts, they strode into the space between the Trojans and Achaeans, glaring fiercely. Amazement seized those who watched, both the horse-taming Trojans and the well-greaved Achaeans. And they stood close together in the measured space, brandishing their spears and seething with rage against each other. Alexander cast his long-shadowed spear first, and struck the perfectly round shield of Atreus' son, but the bronze did not pierce through, and his spear point was bent back against the mighty shield. Then Menelaus, son of Atreus, rose up second with his bronze spear, having prayed to Zeus the Father. "Lord Zeus, grant that I may punish him who first wronged me, divine Alexander, and subdue him beneath my hands, so that even men of future generations may shudder to harm a host who offers friendship." So speaking, he drew back and hurled his long-shadowed spear, striking the son of Priam upon his well-balanced shield. The mighty spear passed through the gleaming shield and drove through the elaborate breastplate. The spear drove straight through and sliced the tunic at his flank. But he swerved aside and escaped black death. But the son of Atreus drew his silver-studded sword and struck, raising it high against the crest of his helmet. And around it the sword, shattered into 3 and 4 pieces, fell from his hand. The son of Atreus groaned, looking up to the broad sky. "Father Zeus, no other god is more destructive than you. I truly thought I would make Alexander pay for his villainy, but now my sword lies shattered in my hands, my spear flew uselessly from my grasp, and I failed to strike him down." With these words, he lunged forward and grasped the horsehair-crested helmet, then wheeling around dragged him toward the well-greaved Achaeans. The richly embroidered strap choked him around his tender neck, stretched tight as the fastening beneath his helmet's crest. And he would have dragged him away, and won boundless glory, had not Aphrodite, daughter of Zeus, swiftly perceived what was happening, and snapped the leather strap cut from a mighty slaughtered ox. The empty helmet came away in his mighty hand. The hero then whirled it about, and hurled it among the well-greaved Achaeans, and his loyal companions carried it away. But he sprang forward again, eager to slay him with his bronze spear. But Aphrodite snatched him away with the greatest ease, as befits a goddess, shrouded him in thick mist, and placed him in his fragrant, incense-scented chamber. Then she herself went to call Helen. She found her upon the lofty tower, with Trojan women gathered all around her. Taking hold of her nectar-scented robe, she shook it with her hand, and spoke to her in the likeness of an aged old woman, a wool-worker, who had worked beautiful wool for Helen when she dwelt in Lacedaemon, and who loved her most of all. Taking on her likeness, divine Aphrodite addressed her. "Come here. Alexander calls for you to come home. There he is in his chamber on the intricately carved bed, radiant with beauty and fine clothing. You would not think he had come from battling a warrior, but rather that he was heading to the dance, or had just finished dancing and taken his seat." So she spoke, and stirred her heart within her breast. And when she saw the goddess's surpassingly beautiful neck and desirable breasts and gleaming eyes, she was struck with wonder, and then spoke these words, calling her by name. "You strange creature, why do you long to deceive me with such words? Will you lead me still further to some other well-inhabited city, whether in Phrygia or lovely Maeonia, if you have some beloved mortal there as well? Is it because Menelaus has now defeated divine Alexander, and wishes to take me, hateful as I am, back home? Is that why you have come here now with your scheming thoughts? Go sit beside him and abandon the path of the gods. Never again return to Olympus on your feet, but always suffer around him and watch over him, until he makes you either his wife or his slave. But I will not go there. It would be shameful, preparing his bed, and all the Trojan women will reproach me hereafter, and I have endless anguish in my heart." Then divine Aphrodite addressed her angrily. "Do not provoke me, reckless one, lest in my anger I abandon you, and I come to hate you as intensely as I now love you beyond measure, and between both peoples I devise bitter enmities of Trojans and Danaans, and you would meet a wretched doom." So she spoke, and Helen, daughter of Zeus, was afraid. She went wrapped in her bright white robe in silence, unnoticed by all the Trojan women. A goddess led the way. When they reached Alexander's magnificent house, the maidservants quickly turned to their duties, while she, that divine woman, went up to the high-roofed chamber. Then laughter-loving Aphrodite took a chair, and carrying it herself, set it down opposite Alexander. There Helen, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, sat down, averting her eyes, and reproached her husband with these words. "You have come back from the war. Would that you had died there, conquered by that mighty warrior who was once my husband. You used to boast that you were superior to war-loving Menelaus in strength, in skill of hand, and with the spear. But go now and challenge war-loving Menelaus once more to fight face to face. But I urge you to stop and not wage violent war against fair-haired Menelaus, or fight him recklessly, lest you be quickly slain by his spear." Paris replied to her with these words, "Woman, do not assail my heart with bitter reproaches. Now Menelaus has won with Athena's aid, but next time I shall defeat him, for we too have gods on our side. But come now, let us turn to love and take our pleasure in bed. Never before has desire so overwhelmed my heart, not even when I first carried you off from lovely Sparta in my seafaring ships and made love to you on the island of Crane, as I desire you now, and sweet passion seizes me." So he spoke, and led the way to the bed, and his wife went with him. So the two lay down together in their well-wrought bed, while the son of Atreus prowled through the throng like a wild beast, searching everywhere to catch sight of godlike Alexander. But none of the Trojans, or their renowned allies, could point out Alexander to war-loving Menelaus at that moment. They certainly would not have concealed him out of affection if anyone had spotted him, for he was equally hateful to them all, like Black Death itself. Then Agamemnon, lord of men, spoke to them. "Hear me, Trojans and Dardanians and allies. Victory clearly belongs to war-loving Menelaus, so you must surrender Argive Helen and all her possessions, and pay fitting compensation that will endure among future generations of men." Thus spoke the son of Atreus, and the other Achaeans voiced their agreement.